Everybody wants to retire, and eventually, hopefully, you will retire. But is it going to be a successful retirement? That's what we got to figure out. What are the steps you need to take to actually get you there? Well, let's go ahead and dive in and talk about this. Know your expenses and income. I know this sounds really basic, but we do stinking financial plans with people every single day, and you would just be mind blown. What's that little emoji? Of the people who don't know their expenses and income. And if that's you, don't take it personal, just get to know it. And so really when it comes down to things, think through your pension, your Social Security, VA disability, anything that you have that's income that's going to be coming in for you for retirement. As far as expenses go, your general living expenses, housing expenses, potential automobile expense, maybe you're going to have to buy a car in retirement, things that are going to come up that maybe you're not thinking about. And really the big one is, I know everybody's going to plug it in the comments if I don't say it, and that's healthcare expenses, because healthcare is a really big expense in retirement years for a lot of people, especially if you retire before 65 and Medicare kicks in. And then also really figuring out what your tax bracket's going to be, because if you're sitting there and you're saying, well, I'm going to retire, and you do your base numbers on pen and paper here, and you say, okay, I've got $100,000 a year that I can get in retirement, and you account for your expenses and you account for your income, everything's putting it right here, but you forgot to calculate it in taxes. Well, if your pension's taxable, or maybe Social Security is going to be partially taxable, or you're pulling from an IRA and it's taxable, that's a lot less money in your pocket. So make sure that you're thinking about that, because I want to make sure you're on the right track. Next one's investment allocation. How are you investing for your retirement? Now, everybody has their own method of doing this. And I will say that, honestly, unfortunately, the rules of thumb when it comes to investments, for me, I say get out of here with those things. It's not really something that you want to look for. Instead, you need to figure out what works best for you directly. And so talking through that, really, understanding your risk tolerance, your comfort level in the markets, the ups and downs, how much can you stomach before maybe your retirement's ended short because you end up killing yourself watching these things, and you have a heart attack. Not just kill yourself, but you have a heart attack. So let me get that one clear. But you're considering your risk tolerance, your needs for risk. What is your financial plan saying? How much really risk do you need to take? Do you need to get a 3% return? Just keep up possibly with inflation? Do you need to get a 7% return? Do you need to get a 10% return and take some excessive risk? That may be a little bit much, but you need to really figure that out. And then talk about potential buckets. What money is going to come from, what money is invested what way. So a potential bucket strategy may be something where you have some short-term money that's really conservative, cash, money market accounts, possibly even a CD that's, liquid still that you can get to. And then you've got your short-term or mid-term buckets. You've got something that maybe it's a bond that's going to be coming due in the next 1 or 2 or 3 years. You've got some options there. Then you got some long-term buckets, like a Roth IRA. Oftentimes in retirement, you want that thing to keep compounding and growing for the long term. So that could be growth. That's a long-term bucket. So starting to factor in those, that will help also with something that a lot of people get concerned with, and that's the sequence of return risk. Sequence of return risk. What the heck is that? If you don't know what it is, basically it's the idea of, what the market's doing when you need your money. And so if you were to retire tomorrow and the market fell 30%, just imagine the people that retired, and let's just say, the middle of 2008, and the market's just really collapsed. What would happen to you then in that situation? If you have $1 million and you're living off of a 4% rule and you just lost 30% of your investment dollars, now you only have $700,000 and you need to get 4%. Well, you're not going to get 4%, that $40,000 that you had. You'd have to lower that down a lot, or you could potentially deplete a lot of your funds. So it's just something to think through to really make sure that you have, a successful retirement. Testing your retirement. Now, so I'd mentioned the 4% rule. A lot of people really like that. That's a rule that's out there that basically says that you can pull 4% of your money. There's a lot of stipulations that come with it, and some people who literally study this rule and almost consider it their holy grail. And so I'll let you leave it at that one. But also there's things like the Monte Carlo analysis. The Monte Carlo is going to run potentially 1,000 scenarios, sometimes more, sometimes less, that figure out a probability of success to say, hey, you've got 90% probability of making it through retirement and having this money at the end of life, versus if you don't. Oftentimes the Monte Carlo's much more conservative than something else we have, which is called the cash flow. cash flow analysis is a lot more like an Excel spreadsheet where you're going to punch in your numbers. Everything happens in what's called a linear fashion, where let's just say that you get 7% returns on your money every single year. You're going to pull, let's just say 4% on your money every single year. Sounds really pretty. But the fact of the matter is, if you've been invested for a while, is that, the markets don't work that way. One year you're going to get 12%. One year you're going to get negative 8%. One year you're going to get 20%. And again, you're going to fall 15%. It's going to bounce around. That's just the way that the markets work. So the cash flow analysis, a little bit more of a liberal approach when it comes to financial planning. But at least if you're looking at this, having an approach, I'm happy for you for just doing that. So make sure that you're figuring that out there. Social Security, that's one that, hopefully it's going to be there for you, right? Everybody stresses about that. But ultimately, I always tell people, hey, you want to see unity in America? Let's just take away Social Security. I bet everybody will unite and say, you know what, we're taking on the government on this because we've paid into this. We deserve our money. So Social Security, know your numbers when it comes to Social Security also. Figure that out. You can go to ssa.gov. You can find out what your actual Social Security projection is going to be. Now, is when to take it? Again, that's on a case-by-case basis. With doing financial plans with people, we talk through a lot of things. We look at a lot of scenarios. But one of them is assessing your health. Because ultimately, if your health is not great or the longevity in your family history is really bad and everybody passed away at 72, well, you might not want to take Social Security at 70 because you're going to get 2 years of it and that'll be it. But at the same time, if you have a long longevity that runs in your family and people live to 95, 100 years old, Social Security is a nice hedge that allows for a fixed income to come in retirement years. But not only is it going to be a fixed income, it's going to adjust for inflation as well. So it's something nice to think about there. But assess your health there. Also, if you want to be considerate, maybe if you're married, consider your spouse. Because if you were the breadwinner in your family, potentially Social Security is going to be a lot higher for you. Well, guess what? The spouse will then get your Social Security, or they'll get theirs and then the offset there to give you the rest of it. So something you got to think through there when it comes to Social Security. Don't just jump in and say, well, I'm taking it at this number. Really think through this. Know your numbers and know what to do. And the last one's withdrawal strategy. Where are you pulling from and when? I can tell you right now, this is just a financial plan that I took from a client. And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to take a quick snapshot and show people exactly what the risk could be if you did one thing or another. In this exact picture here, we have a withdrawal sequence taking taxable money. So after-tax dollars that are in like an individual brokerage account, then tax-deferred, like your IRA or your 401k that rolled over, and then you have tax-free, like the Roth IRA. We're going to compare that to tax-deferred, taxable, and tax-free, so taking the tax-deferred first. If you were to do that in this scenario, this person's financial plan, if they were to do one versus the other, the first one would actually give them $242,802 more tax-adjusted dollars at the end of life or at the end of the plan for inheritance purposes. That's going to give a lot more money there. So making sure that you know what you're doing with your dollars, where they're coming from, could potentially be something that allows for a great inheritance and a legacy for you. Thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about Jazz Wealth and how we can help as fiduciary advisors, go to jazzwealth.com. If you want more educational content, be sure to check out our videos here.